HR Basics is a series of short courses designed to highlight what you need to know about a particular human resource management topic. In today's HR Basics, we explore Form I-9, including the 3 sections of the form that documents employment eligibility verification. Form I-9 is used for verifying the identity and employment authorization of individuals hired for employment in the United States. All U.S. employers must ensure proper completion of Form I-9 for each individual they hire for employment in the United States. U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS, is the government agency that oversees administration and compliance for Form I-9. All employers must complete and retain Form I-9, Employment Eligibility Verification, for every person they hire for employment on or after November 6, 1986 in the United States, as long as the person works for pay. You are required to complete and retain a Form I-9 for every employee you hire for employment in the United States except for individuals hired on or before November 6, 1986, who are continuing in their employment and have a reasonable expectation of employment at all times. Some limitations to this exception do apply. Individuals employed for casual domestic work in private home on a sporadic, irregular, or intermittent basis. Independent contractors or individuals providing labor to you if they're employed by a contractor providing contract services, for example, employee leasing or temporary agencies. And finally, individuals not physically working in the United States. Several versions of Form I-9 Employment Eligibility Verification have been issued since the form was first introduced in 1987. Not all versions are valid for use. To determine whether you're using the correct version of Form I-9, look at the revision date printed on the bottom left corner of the form, and not the expiration date printed on the top of the form. Form I-9 Employment Eligibility Verification consists of 3 sections. Section 1, Employee Information and Attestation, completed by employees. Section 2, Employer or Authorized Representative Review and Verification, completed by employers, and Section 3, Re-Verification and Rehires, completed by employers for employees who are rehired or whose employment authorization requires re-verification. Your employee is responsible to complete Section 1 of Form I-9. Your newly hired employee must complete and sign Section 1 of Form I-9 no later than their first day of employment. When completing Form I-9, you must make the complete instructions to the form and the list of acceptable documents available to your employee. You may have your employee complete Form I-9 on their first day of employment, the actual commencement of employment of an employee for wages, referred to as the date of hire, or before the first day of hire if you've offered the individual a job and if they've accepted the offer. Employees must provide their full legal name, other names used if applicable, such as a maiden name, current address including street name and number, city, state, and zip code, date of birth, a check mark next to the appropriate box to indicate whether they are a U.S. citizen or non-citizen national, lawful permanent resident of the U.S., or an alien authorized to work in the U.S., an alien number, USCIS number, Form I-94 administration number, or foreign passport number, including country of issuance, and the date employment authorization expires if applicable. Finally, the signature and a date. Additionally, employees must provide their Social Security number, this is optional unless the employer uses E-Verify, an email address for the employee to receive email notifications if the employer uses E-Verify, and a telephone number. The employer must review the information for your employee provided in Section 1, and ensure that your employee provided information in all required fields. Employers must complete and sign Section 2 of Form I-9 within 3 business days of the date of hire of their employee. The hire date means the first day of work for pay. For example, if your employee began work for pay on a Monday, you must complete Section 2 by Thursday of that week. If the job lasts less than 3 days, you must complete Section 2 no later than the first day of work for pay. Employees must present unexpired original documentation that shows their employer their identity and employment authorization. Your employees choose which documentation to present. Employees must present one document from List A or one document from List B in combination with one document from List C. List A contains documents that show both identity and employment authorization. List B documents show identity only. List C documents show employment authorization only. Employees must provide documentation to their employers to show their identity and authorization for work. For detailed information about acceptable documents, always refer to www.uscis.gov. The employer or authorized representative must ensure that any document your employee presents is original and on the list of acceptable documents or is an acceptable receipt. Physically examine each document to determine if it reasonably appears to be genuine and to relate to your employee presenting it. Enter your employee's last name, first name, and middle initial if provided from Section 1. Enter the document title, issuing authority, numbers, and expiration date, if any, from the original documents your employee presents. Enter the date your employee began or will begin work for pay. Enter the first and last name, signature, and title of the person completing Section 2, as well as the date he or she completed Section 2. Enter the employer's business name and address. When an employee's employment authorization document expires, an employer must re-verify to ensure the employee is still authorized to work. To find out if your employee's employment authorization expires, look in Section 1 for the date that the employment authorization expires, and in Section 2 for the date that the employment authorization document expires. Employers may have to complete Section 3 when your employee is rehired within 3 years from the date the I-9 was originally completed, or your employee has a legal name change. An employer's knowledge and administration of Form I-9 is critical for the organization's compliance with the Immigration Reform and Control Act. Employers should utilize the vast array of compliance resources from United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS, by visiting www.uscis.gov.